But our next guest says this isn't the first time that domestic extremism has ran rampant, with a presidential candidate leading the charge to lock up his opponents and shut down media outlets. Joining us now, we have historian Adam Hochschild. His new book is titled American Midnight, A Great War of Violent Peace and Democracy's Forgotten Crisis. Thank you so much for being on the show. Congratulations on the book, and take us back to the crisis before this crisis.
Well, thanks, Mika. It's great to be with you. The book that I wrote, American Midnight, is about what I think of as the Trumpiest time in American history before Trump. Roll the clock back a century to the years 1917 to 21, and you'll find a lot of things going on then that feel eerily familiar today. One thing, for example, was that there was a torrent of outrage against immigrants and refugees, and up to the very last minute, the leading Republican and Democratic candidates for nomination for president in 1920 were running on platforms of mass deportations. Another similarity, you mentioned wanting to lock people up. You know, in 2016, Trump's followers shouted about Hillary, lock her up, lock her up. Well, Woodrow Wilson did one better. He did lock up his opponents. Eugene Debs, the former socialist candidate for president, was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And during those years, and it's incredible just to think of this number, more than 1,000 Americans spent a year or more in prison, and a far larger number, shorter periods of time, solely for things that they wrote or said. And furthermore, Trump hated dissenting media, but the Wilson administration went to war against it. They started a censorship program which shut down 75 American newspapers and magazines.
So, Reverend Al, you can take the next question, but you have to go back 100 years. That's definitely disturbing in terms of the setbacks that we're seeing today.
And what is disturbing is it for a season succeeded back 100 years. Let me ask you this, as you did your study. I know that we've always heard Wilson played the film in the White House of the Ku Klux Klan and had racism as acceptable. Was this part of what was the winning strategy for him, that he was able to rally? I mean, was it successful is what I'm saying. And when did it begin to kind of edge out?
It was very much a part of his strategy. Wilson was a Southerner. If you read the books of history that he wrote during the many years he was a college professor, he takes a startling benign view of slavery, telling you that the slaves were really pretty happy. They rather liked it. And I think often the significance in what a president does is what he doesn't say. And the year 1919 in particular saw, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you, Reverend, saw really the worst racial violence in the United States since the immediate aftermath of slavery. The estimates are that close to 1,000 people were killed, almost all of them black. Wilson said one sentence about it all while it was going on. So essentially, he gave the nod for these kinds of racial killings to continue.
And certainly also at the time a global conflict and a pandemic. So there are plenty of echoes here, Professor. So walk us through some of the other characters we should know. Wilson, of course, is the most obvious centerpiece of the book and the Trumpian parallels, but Trump's not doing this alone. Are there echoes from history and time that you write about of other people we should know who have parallels today?
Well, there are all kinds of fascinating people in this period. And when I write history, for me, history is composed of people. So I'm always looking for lively characters, and there's no shortage of them. Wilson was president, of course, and let me just say a little bit more about him. He was the most solemn, dignified professorial of presidents, which to me is a lesson that terrible things don't necessarily have to happen under a loudmouth demagogue. You know, they can happen after somebody who looks very genteel. You know, one of Wilson's opponents during this period was Theodore Roosevelt, who was not president, but very much wanted to be, and was storming and ranting in very Trumpian fashion, wanting the U.S. to fight the war harder and to suppress dissidents harder and so forth. These two men absolutely loathed each other, which of course makes it fun to write about. And there were some brave people as well, you know, who spoke out against the U.S. entering the First World War, which they recognized at the time this was a war that was going to remake the world for the worse in every possible way. Emma Goldman, the anarchist leader, Kate Richards O'Hare, a Socialist Party orator, a wonderful woman named Marie Equi, who was a doctor in Portland, Oregon, a fierce radical women's rights activist, kept being arrested by the police when she spoke for these causes. And she finally realized the one place they couldn't arrest her was the top of a telephone pole. So she borrowed a lineman's crampons, climbed to the top of the telephone pole, gave her speech, and only then were they able to arrest her. So when you've got characters like this, you've got a lively patch of history.
You've got a great book. Adam Hochschild, thank you so much. The new book is entitled American Midnight, A Great War, A Violent Peace, and Democracy's Forgotten Crisis. Thank you very much.